To see how many people are willing to come along to stand up and stand together in defence of the right to speak, to think and to believe. While I don't think we have many woke people in the audience today, I know that every one of you is here today because you're awake to what is happening in this country. You've been keeping your eyes and your ears open. You've been researching, sifting through, critically appraising, and it has led us all to the same conclusion. Something is dreadfully wrong in this country. We have gangs of youth, gurriers roaming the streets of our capital. We have far-left activists in NGOs taking their salaries from your taxes and using them to fight against your interests. We have foreign investment trusts buying up every possible house and apartment in the country, pricing out and price gouging Irish families. Every other home, hotel, community hall, army base, or electric picnic tent has been contracted to house one of the over 100,000 individuals taken in by the government, which continues to refuse to place any limit on the migration and asylum seeking, even while other countries warn their citizens to expect to live in tents if they come to Ireland. In short, we have a government that doesn't care about the Irish people, which has sold out to multinational corporations and to Europe, led by politicians who'd rather get a pat on the head from the EU than a clap on the back from any Irish man or woman. No honest government which does not serve the interest of the electorate can remain in power, yet a dishonest one can by various methods. Rigged elections, voter fraud, intimidation and manipulation. But of course, a model child EU nation could never engage in such practices. Rather, we must find a way to legally suppress dissent. How fortunate then for them that they can write the laws. They know that they aren't competent enough to solve any of Ireland's problems, or they're unwilling to make the decisions necessary to do so. So they just make it so that we aren't allowed to talk about the country's problems. Think there's something wrong with uncontrolled migration. You're a racist. You're jailed. Think that the government's focus should be on housing Irish people. You're a racist. You're jailed. Think that kids shouldn't be reading pornography in primary schools or watching drag queens in libraries. Homophobic, transphobic, you're jailed. I'm reminded of Orwell's Newspeak, the controlled language of simplified grammar and restricted vocabulary, designed to limit the person's ability to think critically or to articulate subversive concepts, such as a personal identity, self-expression and free will. If the masses cannot conceive of a freedom, they will never revolt. And if they're forbidden to speak truth, only a state-sanctioned narrative will remain. This, I believe, is the basis for the government's criminal justice bill, the hate speech bill. This is a silencing bill. It's a censorship bill. It's a bill made by the powerful to stamp out the dissent of minority voices. It is a bill that seeks to codify the prevailing narratives and restricts the free exchange of ideas, insulating the status quo against criticism. First laid before the Houses of the Oireachtas in November 2022, the bill was ushered through the Dáil in February and April of this year with little to no attention and barely any opposition, only being voted against by Peadar Tóibín, the Rural Independents, Catherine Connolly, Michael McNamara, the People Before Profit. Talk about a broken clock. No Fine Gael TD. Fianna Fáil TD, Green TD, or Sinn Féin TD tried to stop this bill. Remember that the next time a Shinner talks about being in the opposition. This government thought that they could sneak it through the Shannon as well, but unfortunately for them, we were paying attention and we were ready. The efforts of a few in the chamber willing to speak out against this attack on our rights, combined with the tireless work of grassroots campaigners, with our own Free Speech Ireland being chief among them, and the good men and women of GRIP transporting the truth across the country, have brought us here today. We have hundreds of people in this hall and hundreds of thousands across the country who are now taking notice of the imminent removal of our freedom of speech and what we must do to stop it. This bill seeks to criminalise certain forms of speech, which is likely to incite hatred against anyone who is a member of what the government view as a protected class, those who possess what the bill calls protected characteristics. You don't have to look too far to see the fruit of the similar legislation which was passed in other jurisdictions. In Finland, a member of parliament was taken to court and faces up to 2 years in prison for the crime of ethnic agitation. Her crime was tweeting a picture of the Bible. Paveen Rattisen, the member of parliament, who was actually in court this week, said she would never have believed that this could happen to Finland's democracy, with freedom of speech and freedom of religion in its constitution. Finland prosecutors stated that the use of the word sin could be harmful, and said that the people are allowed in their minds to agree with the Bible, but cannot state that in public. In Norway, a feminist by the name of Christina Ellenson said, "I do not believe that men who become women, lesbian girls or mothers are what they claim to be." An honest opinion held by many in this room. For saying this, she is under investigation by the police and has been for 9 months for suspected hate speech on the grounds of gender identity, and is facing prison sentence of up to 3 years. Over in the UK, the Crown Prosecution Service has said there are references in the Bible which are simply no longer appropriate in modern society and which could be deemed offensive if stated in public. So make sure you're not to mention your religious beliefs to anyone. But of course, in the UK, sometimes it's not even enough to remain silent. Isabel Vaughan Spruce was arrested last year for standing near an abortion clinic. The police suspected that she may have been silently praying inside her head, and so bundled her into the back of a van and whisked her away. The government and Sinn Féin are bringing in the same legislation here that was used to do this. This is how hate speech are used to virtually in every other country in which this law exists, not only to punish the types of extreme bigotry and many speech restrictions advocates believe will be suppressed, but also a wide range of views that even many on the left believe should be permissible, if not outright accepted. In the words of ALCU Legal Director David Cole, it is virtually impossible to articulate a standard for suppression of speech that would not afford governments officials dangerously broad discretion and invite discrimination against particular viewpoints. There are people in this country who have no love for Ireland. Those who would have our country be a woke theocracy, which punishes citizens who dare to contradict the secular progressive dogma of the day. These radical progressives activists want nothing more than to use the state's monopoly on force to inflict their ideology on us all. And these people have been allowed to found and take over NGOs, occupy senior civil servant positions, and there are, of course, a few politicians who are genuine faithful members of the Church of Progress. But most modern politicians are not radicals. They do not have convictions. They only have opinions, and these are heavily subject to change. Despite their repeated use of populism as a dirty word, almost every politician is a populist. They will parrot the talking points of the mob and go whatever way the wind is blowing. We've seen this with the hate speech bill, down to the man they are willing to just let it sail through the houses until we started to speak out, began to speak up with emails and campaigns, and never thought, oh, this might actually come back to bite us. Now you have Sinn Féin opposing the bill and multiple government TDs and senators quietly hoping it will be shelved. And they'll be spared the embarrassment of having to force through Helen McEntee's pet project. This is good news for us, but never forget that they didn't switch sides until it suited them. Know who really fights for you. What we have to do now is not get complacent. Helen McEntee has too much skin in this game and has gone full sunk cost fallacy on this bill. She's going to try and ram it through the Seanad before Christmas. Every single person in this room needs to email or call their local TDs and senators. All of their details are online. Let them know that they will never get a vote from you again if they do not oppose this bill. Talk to your families about the bill. Talk to your friends. Look up the Oireachtas debates online, Wednesday the 21st of June 2023. Check out my Twitter, Free Speech Ireland, Gript, Senator Ronan Mullen, Gerard Crotwell, Michael McDougall. These are wonderful ambassadors that have come out against this free speech legislation. They all have material online that you can look up on this. Read it, get educated and keep speaking out. Remember, every politician is just a public servant and the real power lies with the people. In the words of Brendan Behan, they took away our land, our language and our religion, but they could never harness our tongues. It is so great to see the energy in the room for the fight and the conviction in this room. And that's what's going to save us. So let's just give them hell.